Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to sail right through financial crashes while other people lose everything? And more importantly, what if I told you a simple economic curve could actually predict how you will be affected when the next big shock hits, possibly as soon as 2026? Because today, we're breaking down a concept that quietly determines your spending, your risk, and your lifestyle. And look, this isn't some theoretical question. It's deeply personal. And the crazy part is, the answer is already being written by the choices you make every single day. And that answer is hidden right here, in what's called your personal indifference curve. Now trust me on this, if you don't understand what your curve looks like before 2026 hits, you could end up making decisions that cost you thousands. So to make sure that doesn't happen, let's break down exactly what this curve is and what it reveals about you. Alright, so first things first, why is everyone suddenly talking about 2026? This isn't about fear-mongering, I promise. It's about looking at the data, and the data is pointing to some growing fragility in the global economy. Now this quote is really interesting because it completely flips the script. The chief strategist at BCA Research is saying the real danger isn't a slow economy causing a market crash. No, it's the other way around. A bloated, fragile market could suddenly crash and drag the entire real economy down with it. So the crucial point here is the pressure that's already building on households. We are talking about a record $17.3 trillion in consumer debt. As you can see, that includes everything from mortgages and car loans to credit cards and student debt. This isn't just a number. It represents millions of families stretched incredibly thin before crisis even begins. And this chart really puts that into perspective. Just take a look at that steep red line. That's student loans. They have exploded by over 430% since 2003, far outpacing inflation. Folks, that is not normal growth. That's a massive structural burden that makes the whole system more rigid and way more vulnerable to a shock. And this graph here, it shows how much of your actual take-home pay is immediately eaten up by debt payments. Notice that little uptick on the far right. After years of low payments, that burden is climbing again. And when this number is high, there's just less room to breathe, and any drop in income can quickly become a catastrophe. Okay, so with all that context set, how do we connect a potential global crash to your personal finances? Well, it all comes down to understanding your own unique financial fingerprint, the indifference curve. So, in its simplest terms, an indifference curve is basically a map of your happiness. Seriously, every single point along one of these curves gives you the exact same level of satisfaction, or what economists like to call utility. It is literally a map of your personal preferences. I love this analogy. Think of it like a contour map of a mountain. The very peak is maximum happiness. Each of these curves you see is like a different altitude line on that map. The higher the curve, the further away it is from that corner, the happier you are. The whole goal of your financial life is to climb to the highest curve possible. So, how does this play out in real life? It is all about trade-offs. Your curve reveals what you're willing to sacrifice, like that daily coffee or a few streaming services, in order to protect what you consider non-negotiable, like your rent or mortgage. It shows you exactly where you draw the line when money gets tight. And here's the truly wild part. Your current spending habits, all the little choices you make every single day, have already drawn this map. Your curve already predicts how you'll behave in a crisis, even before the crisis happens, because it's a perfect blueprint of your true priorities. Hey, real quick, if you're finding this useful for understanding your own financial picture, do me a favor and hit that like button so this explainer can reach more people. And definitely subscribe, because we're about to connect all of this to how a crisis actually feels, and you are not going to want to miss it. Alright, now for the main event. We've got a fragile economy on one side and your personal preference map on the other. So what happens when they collide? This is how the financial squeeze actually works. So when a recession hits, your financial world can feel like it gets turned upside down. Your income might drop, or it could even disappear. Prices for things you buy every day can go haywire. The immediate effect is that your budget, the total amount you can spend, shrinks. And the result? You're automatically knocked down to a lower level of overall satisfaction. And here's exactly what that looks like on a graph. On the left, you see your budget line. That's everything you can afford. During a crisis, it shifts inward, dramatically cutting your options. And on the right, you can see what that does to your happiness map. You simply can no longer reach that high altitude curve. You are forced down the mountain. And this is the final result. Your new, smaller budget can only just touch a much lower indifference curve. You are forced to accept fewer choices and less satisfaction. This is not a feeling of being broke. This is the cold, hard math of economic pressure. This right here is the precise moment people feel the squeeze. It's why stress levels spike and families feel immense pressure. It is a tangible loss of well-being. But, and this is the entire point, if you understand your curve ahead of time, you gain something incredibly powerful: control. you can anticipate the tough choices you'll have to make. So this isn't about doom and gloom. This is all about preparation. By understanding this framework, you can actually map out your own survival strategy before the storm even gathers. So let's make this actionable. Here are 3 things to do. First, know your priorities. Don't just guess. Sit down and ask yourself, if my income was cut in half tomorrow, what are the 3 to 5 things I absolutely would not give up? That's the core you need to protect. Second, you can reshape your curve now. If you know your weakness is spontaneous spending, start building a habit of saving that money instead. Every dollar you save today makes your future self more resilient. And third, remember that simply understanding this gives you a huge advantage. You'll be making conscious choices while others are panicking. Okay, before we wrap up, let's tackle the big questions that always come up whenever we discuss a potential downturn. So, first up, will the 2026 crash definitely happen? Look, no one has a crystal ball, but the warning signs are there, and preparing for volatility is always a smart move. Who gets hit the hardest? It's always those with the least flexibility, people with high debt, low savings, and unstable jobs. And can you protect yourself? Absolutely. That is what this is all about. Know your preferences, tighten early, reduce debt, and just be mentally prepared to make adjustments. And that leaves us with one final thought. All of these economic models, all the charts and the data, they all boil down to one single personal question. So forget the global economy for a moment and just ask yourself, what will your curve look like in 2026? The answer to that question will define your future. If you are interested in this style of economic videos, like this video, and new videos will be suggested to you. Thank you for being with me this far.